Welcome to the Discovery Podcast, the show where we unbox, discover, and discuss the latest drops in personal and professional development. We are being brought to you by Zenbox. Take control, download Zenbox on the App Store today, and begin your journey of discovery and self-elevation. I'm your host, Andre Paulo, and I'm here with my co-host, Melissa Spadafora, and our very special guest, one who's amazing holistic nutritionist, who happens to be a coach on the app itself, Marjan Mogharrabi. Welcome.
Hello.
And the lovely Miss Laura de Sanctis. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you guys. But before we dive into all of that, do you guys mind introducing yourselves to our audience or reintroducing yourself, Miss Marjan? And then we'll just go with the flow.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I am Marjan. I live and work in Guelph, Ontario, and I am a holistic nutritionist specializing in anxiety management through blood sugar balance. And I've been doing that for about 3 years now.
I'm Laura de Sanctis. I am the founder of Go With Your Gut. Sorry. I always find it weird to talk about myself for some reason.
Same.
It's just so weird. So I specialize in digestive healing and digestive health based on my own personal story, which we might probably get into a little bit later. And I'm the founder of Go With Your Gut organic tea. I just created a new prebiotic tea as well. And the founder of Shift Happens, which are new wellness journals that I just launched.
Amazing. Great to have you guys here this morning. And the topic of the day is going to be digestive health, as well as our own personal journeys within like nutrition and our own personal wellness. So we'll start right off the bat with our first question. Why do you believe digestive health is so important, and what are the key benefits of a healthy digestive system? Who wants to take the lead?
I feel like Laura. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like Laura is going to jump.
Okay. First question was, how do you know if you have a healthy digestive system? Was that the first question?
Yeah, the first question is, why do you believe digestive health is so important?
Okay, so I believe digestive health is so important because it sets the tone for everything else in your body. It sets the tone for how you look, how you feel, how you function. And I think a lot of the time, there's so many people that are walking around feeling like crap, feeling like sick, and they don't know the difference between feeling good and feeling bad. They're just always in fight or flight. They always have high stress levels, inflammation, cortisol. And I think it's so important to realize, like, what is literally on our plates from a stress perspective, from lifestyle, from fitness and movement? Are we mindful? Are we meditating? What are we eating? All these things contribute to our digestive health, and we take that for granted. So I think the digestive system and having optimal digestive health, which varies from person to person, really sets the tone for everything else in your life, how you look, how you feel, how you move, how you think. And when I explain this to people, they're like, yeah, I never really thought about that. But you know, without getting too much TMI, like think about like when you go to the bathroom, like, and you poop, after most of the time you'd feel good, right? It's like this release. And it's not just like the food and the bile and the toxins you're releasing. It could be the energy. It could be so many other things around you too that you absorb. So when you have a good digestive system, you're functioning well. The way you look, the way you move, the way you think, everything is in flow and in unison. That's what I feel is a healthy digestive system. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, when you said the whole fight or flight thing, that's actually something that I see a lot in my practice is a lot of people in a state of anxiety. And how the system works is that it's like a light switch kind of. Like when it's on, we're in like go mode. Our system is flowing. Everything's just, going. That is the light switch being on. When the light switch is off, that's when we're in rest phase. Our food is being digested. Everything is kind of like slowing down a little bit. We can't be in both systems at the same time. We cannot be the light switch on and off at the same time. So going along with what Laura said, a lot of us are in that on phase all the time. So if rest and digest is the other phase, how do those things go hand in hand? So when we're not mindful of that, mindful of actually shutting down, just as simple as like not eating food at your desk at work, for example. You're focused on something else and you're also trying to digest. going back to that whole light switch analogy, it just doesn't work. And I think we're just not mindful enough of it.
Amazing. And what are the key benefits of a healthy digestive system? Like, I know you guys talked about its importance, but what are some key benefits that when people get, let's say, advice or counsel or reach out to a practitioner, more often than not, they want like practical applications. So how do we take something that you guys explained it on the theoretical level, right? If you, let's say you're teaching someone what it is, but now how do they take that information and apply it day to day?
So something that I like to start with in my practice is, and for myself actually as well too, is starting my day with something that's like a soothing, warm water, a little bit of lemon juice in there. The reason why I do the lemon juice is because our digestive system works like a domino effect of sorts. So when we add a little bit of lemon juice, saliva starts to go. Even if you can just imagine yourself biting into a lemon right now, who would even do that? But if you even just imagine that, already saliva starts to get produced. That goes down into your stomach. It releases some other things. It releases stomach acid, breaks down our food. Things just start to move a little bit more that way. And so because everything works like a domino effect, that in turn goes all the way down to our bowels. We have a nice morning poop, hopefully get everything out. Am I allowed to say poop on the podcast?
Yeah, you can say whatever
It's too late. It's too late now. We both said
we're
it,
gonna
Laura
get
and I.
real personal.
Yeah.
Real personal.
So that's usually how I like to start things off on a very practical note with clients, is just starting your day with something that's going to kind of get that domino effect just going nice and slowly, just so that we can start releasing some of those things.
Laura?
I agree. I think warm water and lemon, or even warm water and apple cider vinegar, something that is not a diuretic. I think a lot of people, as soon as they wake up, they're like, I need coffee. And usually they haven't had enough sleep. And I think sleep is so important. We hear this a lot now. How much sleep can affect just your overall health, especially your digestive system, because when you're not or when you are sleeping, it helps reduce a lot of inflammation. And that's when your body naturally repairs itself. And I think there's so much like hocus pocus and stuff right now when it comes to the health and wellness industry about, what's healing, what's good, what's bad, which detox should I try, who's a trusted resource. And at the end of the day, I always tell people, like, be your own best nutritionist, be your own best doctor. If you know certain foods don't agree with you, or if you know certain foods aggravate you, why keep having them in your diet? Try an elimination diet for 2 to 3 weeks. See how you feel. Take out gluten, take out dairy. Those are two big culprits, common allergens or food sensitivities that people have. So try that and see. But you, at the end of the day, the onus is still in your own hands. So you have to realize, like, what are the things that are going to make me feel good? Yes, 100% warm water and lemon. It's one of the most natural and easy ways to cleanse the body. And before you even look at the supplements, what are other things in terms of foods that are naturally healing to us? Bone broth with collagen. It's really great to help reduce inflammation in our body. So it's not a fad. It's proven. There's science behind it that it actually can help reduce inflammation, and it can repair leaky gut and a bunch of other digestive issues, I would say. But two, I would look at, what do you start your day with? If you're not doing intermittent fasting, when you look at the word breakfast, if you break that word down, you're breaking your fast. So what are you starting your day with? And me, I was my own, case study where when I used to work in corporate, I used to analyze people all the time, and they're in fight or flight. They're waking up. Everything's chaos. I got to check my emails right away. I got to respond. I got to do this. I got to drink my coffee. Mindlessly eating, mindlessly moving, not really paying attention. And you see this a lot, especially in Toronto. Like, people are like glued to their phone. They're not eating, or if they are eating, they're eating way too fast. They're not paying attention to the foods that they're eating, or they're very habitual.
In that fight or flight mode
Fight
again.
or flight all the time, right? And things are so habitual. And I'd see the same things over and over and over again, where people would have a coffee and a bagel, or a coffee and a donut, or some frappuccino, or something with tons of sugar. And those are the things like you're starting your day with. So like, before you even get to the science part of it, it's like, is this going to fuel me, or is this going to make me feel like crap? Like, especially when you're starting your day like that. I look at warm water and lemon as priming the pump and waking your body up a little bit, saying, hey, you're awake now.
In a gentle way.
In a gentle way,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. And then you're going to start your day and you are going to start to eat and get hungry, hopefully. So what are the things that you're consuming? Mind, body, spirit, everything around you. And when I talk about, we're habitual, when people eat, and there's nothing wrong if you want to have a bagel once in a while or a donut, but if you're having this every day, constantly, and you're wondering why you're feeling like crap all the time. Well, I always tell people coffee is a diuretic, and then you have like a really heavy starch and carb. So inside, what do you think that's going to do to your body? It's like, I use the analogy of with a bagel, it's so dense, it's so rich, it makes you feel full. And if you have that every day and you're sitting down at your desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, of course you're going to feel more tired because you're not moving. You're not really breaking it down. I envision, and the analogy I was going to use is like putting dough or something like a Play-Doh through a hose. And from one way to another, it's not going to pass through easily. And then when you add a diuretic like coffee.
That is a really disgusting analogy.
I know, but when you add a diuretic like coffee as well, which constricts, it doesn't help you move. It doesn't like let the bile and the waste product flow through your body like water would. What's going to happen? Yeah. It's going to just stay there, right?
Can I challenge that thought a little bit?
Sure.
Like, no, like I love challenging thought and just like kind of letting the conversation flow in that way. For me, I find though, like I love the water suggestion, but I find like the lemon part of it can also be counterintuitive in that lemon's like very acidic. And I just feel like starting off your day with like an acidic fruit like that is almost, to me, has the same effects as like the diuretic effect of coffee.
Okay, but can we challenge that?
I want to hear it.
Yeah, we're going to challenge.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Challenge accepted.
Two holistic nutritionists on this side.
We just looked at each other. We're like, oh, he doesn't even know.
Yeah, well, he doesn't even know what's coming to him.
I have a couple questions
I'm ready.
Write them down because this is about to get serious here. Basically, you make a really good point. A lot of people say this to me too. They're like, isn't lemon an acid?
Yeah.
Yes, obviously.
And a natural diuretic.
Yes, but this is the reason why it's a natural diuretic. So what happens is that once lemon goes into the system, it creates an alkaline environment. So you can actually test this. If you go to a health food store and you buy those, there's like little test strips that you can buy that you test your saliva. You can also test your urine with that as well too, to see if once things pass through your system, they turn alkaline. It'll tell you like on the strip based on the color. Have you ever seen those before?
No.
You guys are looking at me like I have 3 heads.
I have. I never knew you could test your saliva.
Yeah, you can. So basically what happens is you would, for example, test your saliva first thing in the morning if you're really curious. Like obviously you wouldn't be doing
what
this
are you
every day.
testing for? Like I'm just...
acidity. So it'll show
Okay.
you on the actual strip what color it's supposed to be. I forget now what color it is, but it'll show you on the thing. And then you test it. You're typically on the more acidic side when you wake up.
Right.
After you consume lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, which are both acids on the outside, after you consume those, typically your saliva will turn alkaline, meaning that once it goes into our systems, it creates an alkaline environment.
But
now,
what causes that effect? Like what makes that change?
And the chemicals in your body.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just converts it. But the other reason why those types of acids are good for us and are diuretics and are a good diuretic to have first thing in the morning is because, first off, it just kind of gradually and gently gets that saliva going, like I was saying, right? Saliva is already going, but we want it to kind of like wake the body up, but in a gentle way to be like, hey, food's coming. So it gets that saliva going, and then it triggers the release of stomach acid once it goes into the stomach. So when we drink coffee, it doesn't have that same effect. It's a diuretic, but it's more of a like, bam, diuretic.
Yeah,
like
right.
super
everything just
stimulating.
kind of like moves out of you almost like too quickly to the point where your foods aren't actually being broken down. They're not taking the time to break down and absorb naturally into the system because coffee is just like one of those ones that flushes things out. Whereas lemon juice and apple cider vinegar, they've been studied more so to be kind of a natural diuretic. Something else I was going to say along the lines of what Laura said is that a lot of these things are kind of like, they're known as fads, right? Like people will be like, oh yeah, I have to, drink my apple cider vinegar in the morning. You don't necessarily have to. Just starting your day with just like a warm water is also just as fine. But the thing that I would really encourage people to do, and I would really love it if society would lean towards this more, can you guys just like know what is good for your own body?
Yeah.
And can we not all just jump on every single trend that's out there? A lot of times when I'm doing a workshop or I'm doing a presentation, I always test people and say, okay, who here is taking, a shot of apple cider vinegar in the morning? Who here is doing hot water and lemon? 90% of people put up their hands. Okay, great. Why are you doing that? No one puts up their hand. No one has any clue. And I'm like, well, you're putting something in your body. Thank goodness. It's at least like a natural thing. It's water and a little bit of lemon. It's not the end of the world. But how do you know that that's what your body needs? How do you know?
I was going to say, like, for me, I have really bad acid reflux, like terrible. And I know I've tried the whole apple cider vinegar fad and it was not for me. Like my whole digestive system, like, felt really uncomfortable. Like everything in my stomach just started gurgling and I'm just like, is this what's supposed to happen?
Right. You're too sensitive
to it. I'm like,
this.
this is not okay. And I'm no longer doing that anymore. But you brought up a certain thing earlier about eating too fast.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do that, and I get made fun of because I eat really slow because I like to enjoy my food.
Good for you. We encourage that.
But I just want to know what's wrong with eating fast. Is it like, what does it do to your body?
Okay. What's wrong? What's right? So what it does is when you're eating really fast, you're getting a lot of trapped air and gas, and that can cause a lot of gas and bloating and indigestion. That's one. Two, you're bypassing your senses. So I always quiz people, and this is like what I do in my workshops. I always ask people, where does digestion start? And you'd be surprised, and they're like, the stomach. I'm like, really? It starts in your stomach? Like you have teeth in your stomach? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, digestion, if you think about it, it's your senses. It's your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Like when you pass by a restaurant or when you like you're grocery shopping and you smell something good, you start to produce saliva. You're like, that looks really good. You know how they always say you shouldn't like grocery shop when you haven't eaten yet? Because you're eating with your eyes. You're salivating, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Salivating right now.
Me too. I saw a bunch of this morning. I saw a few pictures of plantain salads. I'm like, after this, I'm getting salad.
Yeah. You're already on track.
Right? But to answer your question, Melissa, I think a lot of people, they just bypass all that. So a lot of the time when you're eating so quickly, first of all, you're not mindful in what you're eating. So you're not thinking about, oh, this food is nourishing for me. It's going to make me feel good. There's so many benefits. A lot of the time we just eat because we're so hungry. It's like just to fill our stomach. That's like gut fuel. But we're not actually visualizing what we're eating, how much we're eating. We're not smelling our food. There's no connection anymore. And then in terms of chewing, when we chew, it depends if it's protein, carbs, or fats, the saliva, we need to break it down more, right? And you'll find that especially with certain proteins, people can't digest that properly, or even fats or carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the fastest to break down. But you need that saliva to help prime the rest of your system, to let your stomach and your whole digestive system know like food is coming. And we just bypass that. And I always challenge people when they say like, why do I have to eat so slow? What are the benefits? It's like your food should be like a pace. When you look at nature, when you look at a lot of animals, you see how much they chew. It's easier to digest. It's easier to absorb. And there's even studies about doing like juice cleanses or bone broth diets. Do like a bone broth fast for 2 or 3 days to reset your digestive system, because a lot of the time we eat so much and we eat in such a rush state that our bodies can evolve to everything else around the world. Like, technology and the way life is so fast, but our digestive system will still do its own thing. It's got its own timeline. And I don't think people pay attention to that. So I'd like to challenge people when they say, I don't think I eat too fast. It's like, well, look around you, like when you're at a table or a dinner or a family gathering, a setting with friends, and see like, do they eat fast? And what I do as well is like, I always look and observe, and I look at people, if you look at them between the lunch hour, let's say 11 to 2 in a food court, and watch how fast people eat.
Yep.
Or even in a drive-thru. So you're waiting in the drive-thru. You place your order, you get your food, and then by the time you're out, you're already done your food. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
There's so many
you
people
just inhaled
like that.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they have gas, bloating, indigestion, distension. They feel like, they're releasing too quickly sometimes, or they feel like they can't go to the bathroom. Well, it's because you bypass the natural process of digestion with your smell, the way you look at food, taste. Like saliva is huge.
Yeah.
Now, how do you guys as practitioners find tangible solution for the person that can't change their environment? Because they say if you can't change your environment, you got to change you, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can't change their environment, if that's all they have is 20 minutes, a half an hour to go grab food, for me, this is from like an amateur practitioner point of view. What I would say is what you need to do is eat more often throughout the day so that by the time lunch comes, you're not eating this giant meal. It's a lot smaller. You're able to digest and you're able to move on. Would you say that's a tangible solution to that problem? Like eating smaller
Sometimes.
meals throughout the day as opposed to just binging at breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
I think it depends on where you're at with your digestive system. I know for me, that doesn't really work well, especially on my work schedule. And I like doing intermittent fasting. For some people, smaller bite-sized meals or snacks help. The problem sometimes when you do that is people tend to overeat. So it depends on your health goal too. But I don't think that's always a bad thing if you want smaller bite-sized meals to give yourself time. I think too, even if you are in a crazy environment for work or if you're working out and you need to snack after or have something that's more easily digestible and readily available for you, smoothies. I think that's one that people overlook a lot of time. You don't always have to have it in the morning. It's a great option though for a snack too. And chew your smoothie, chew your soups, chew your liquids. And people are like, that's crazy. I'm like, no, because your body's producing more saliva. So it's easier to break down.
That's
I'm gonna start
still a
doing
meal though, right? Would you still consider that a meal or
A smoothie?
Yeah.
You can make it
You
into
can
a
make
meal.
it like that.
I
Yeah.
often say that to
Like
clients.
that's what I mean. Like maybe I used the wrong word. Maybe like
Like a
it's
snack?
nourishment or something. Like just keeping yourself nourished so that you're not super hungry all the time.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned like intermittent fasting a few times. Like I personally don't subscribe to it, and I'll tell you why. And then you guys can rebuttal. The reason I don't subscribe to it is because I feel like when we either fast extended periods of time or do like shorter term intermittent fasting, we're actually fighting against our system in that our metabolism, for example, like I have a really fast metabolism, right? For me, I know that in order for me to feel like myself, I just have to listen to my body and eat when it wants to eat. And that's more often, right? And other people with slower metabolism can probably go a lot longer and maybe fast for 3 hours, 4 hours before they feel hungry again. And that's
and you're
fine.
also really physically active
Yeah.
too.
Right.
So your body is needing that fuel as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, like I have like my body, like I try to tailor my nutrition around that. Like if we're saying, like people could try intermittent fasting, like you see it on the internet all the time, for example, right? That might not fit everybody.
No.
Exactly.
For example, if somebody comes to me, like this is back when I was training and said, listen, I'm trying to lose weight. The worst thing I could tell them is to fast, because what's going to happen is their metabolism is going to slow down even more, which has the adverse effect of what they're trying to do, because their body's going to respond to the fact that you're not eating as often. So your metabolism slows down to try to conserve more of your energy throughout the day and to keep you in homeostasis. So then what happens is, like if an individual starts to eat a lot more, maybe smaller portions spread out throughout the day, and they're never really hungry, then their metabolism responds accordingly because it's trying to break down that food. Now, that's just my perspective and why I don't particularly subscribe to it.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear your professional opinion on my amateur opinion.
Well, I agree with what you said about the listening to your body, and it's not going to be the same for everyone. I personally don't eat breakfast some mornings. I wouldn't call it an intermittent fast necessarily, but some mornings I don't necessarily feel hungry. And I feel like when it comes to digestion, this is the easiest way that we can start to pay attention and listen to our bodies. like Laura was saying, we're on the go all the time. We have no idea what we're doing. We're grabbing a coffee, we're grabbing this, grabbing that, and just shoveling it into our mouths and not paying attention. But one of the easiest ways that we can start listening to our bodies is with that hunger cue. Are you actually hungry?
Are you thirsty?
Are you thirsty? That's the thing, right? Is that a lot of times we're forcing it because, oh, it is breakfast time. Like we have to eat because that's just what we do as a society. Not necessarily. Sometimes our bodies are not hungry because it's trying to tell us that it's working through something else. Maybe we're coming down with a cold or something's happening, or it's digesting still from a heavy meal from the night before. Maybe it doesn't need food right now. Maybe just a little warm water with some lemon might be all you need for now. But again, someone of your lifestyle is a little bit more active, or some of the clients that you're training, they're more active, their muscles are in use all the time, and their bodies likely are going to be giving them that cue more. So yeah, to shut that down, to say like, no, I'm going to push through, you're kind of going against nature when you're doing that. And so it does really come down to listening to your body. So in my practice, when I work with clients, I typically am working on blood sugar management first and foremost, so that our blood sugar isn't spiking and crashing constantly throughout the day. That relates to anxiety and mood and all of that stuff.
You talk about that somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Where?
I don't know.
Where
Maybe on the Zenbox app?
Oh, right. You have like a whole series on that.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, wow. You recognize me?
I do recognize you. I knew you from somewhere.
Exactly. So basically, I never tell clients to go on an intermittent fast, even though it's been shown, studies have shown that it's actually very good for blood sugar management. I don't typically say, okay, starting today, we're doing intermittent fasting, because what typically happens is once your blood sugar is in a state of balance and you're starting to pay attention to those hunger cues a little bit more, you likely, like Laura does her intermittent fasting in the mornings or throughout the day, you typically probably don't feel, you're not like starving yourself through that, right?
No.
And so that's typically what happens with my clients. They'll say like, oh, I don't want to try intermittent fasting. I had a friend who did that and she passed out. Okay, that probably like wasn't for her. That's an example of somebody jumping on a fad diet because their cousin's brother told them that it was like good for losing weight, right? And so I say, don't worry about it. We're just going to work on your digestion and we're going to work on blood sugar management. A week, 2 weeks later, they're like, you know what? I woke up in the morning, didn't feel like having breakfast, just had a hot water and lemon instead, waited until noon. That's when my body was telling me that I wanted my first meal of the day. I'm like, cool. You just kind of sort of did an intermittent fast without me telling you to do it, because you're now paying attention to those signals in your body.
Yeah.
Do you feel that those signals change too, whether seasonally or age? Because, we like to use examples from our own personal experience when we talk about things like this. And for me personally, like, I remember I used to be a carb machine, like from 16 to 25, like in the morning, the amount of, if I told you guys how much carbs I had in the morning,
I'm so jealous.
Like, it was unbelievable how much carbs I can consume in the morning. But by like 10:30, 11 o'clock, I was useless, like just this massive crash, right? And then turn things around in my late 20s, and I just turned 30. I noticed that I wasn't craving it anymore, but it took me actively not doing it as much because I didn't like the crashes, especially when you're getting older. It's not cute to be like a zombie
take a nap.
during the day, right? Like, when you're younger, you can get away with it. When you have more responsibilities, I realize I need to change my diet. The reason I bring this up is because I know I mentioned that I have a super fast metabolism and I'm fairly active. But in the mornings, I've noticed as I've gotten older, I'm not hungry. I'm not as hungry. I'm not craving things as much as I used to. Now, what I do is like, I'll have water. Like I have like a 750 milliliter bottle. I'll probably have that finished within 20 minutes of waking up, 15 minutes of waking up. And then I'm good. I feel good. And then by 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm hungry. And then usually it's like a protein, healthy fats, more water.
Did you learn that from the app? Did you learn that from my segment?
I'm not going to say where I learned that from. But let's just say since August, I've cleaned up my act.
Okay.
And I feel great. I feel great. Like even making those small adjustments with like my breakfast routine. And then I felt like I had so much more energy. So my lifestyle right now, before I used to be in a gym environment so I could train anytime. Now my work schedule doesn't allow me to do that. I can only train in the evening. But if I didn't have the energy to, I couldn't do something that was such a big part of my life. But making those adjustments that I learned from our conversation over the last like 3 to 4 months, you can ask Melissa, I've brought it up like every week. Like I feel amazing. Like I've probably...
He does bring it up almost every day.
Yeah, like I have all this energy and I've probably gained like 12, 13, 14 pounds because I'm just training more than I ever was. But it's all like healthy weight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And at the same time, I wouldn't say I'm eating way more than I was before. I'm just eating better, eating smarter.
And you're listening to
And
your
listening,
cues a
yeah,
little bit
exactly. And then I'm able to like maximize my physical potential because like my nutritional, mental, spiritual, and holistic approach.
He goes like this.
Holistic approach to like it's crazy. And this is why it was so important for me to like reach out to practitioners like you guys and put them on this platform because I saw firsthand what this does for people, right? And in practicing it myself, I can honestly be witness or like be that testimony in saying that in the last 3 to 4 months, it's probably the healthiest and most energetic I've ever felt in my life. And it's crazy. I'm 30 years old. Like you think that would have been like 10 years ago, but this is the healthiest and most energetic I've been. Like my girl, like she just like laughed. She's like, you're like a kid. Like I'm always bouncy, ready to go. Like 10 o'clock at night, like I'm ready to roll. Like what's up? Like, you know what I mean? So
What's up?
it's crazy. Like, and I feel like a big part of that is being conscious, being present, understanding that this is something that I had to consciously do. It didn't just happen. Yeah. But it starts with what you said, which is identifying your obstacles, right? We didn't ask that question yet, but identifying the obstacles. And my obstacles was essentially my diet. Like the way I was eating was kind of destroying my energy level, which was destroying my productivity and taking away from the things that made me happy. Yep. Right? So that being said, what is the biggest obstacle you overcame with your digestion and how do you accomplish this?
Laura, you go ahead. You actually have a really cool story.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy when I look back and I think about it. Yeah. So it's funny, Andre, you're talking about, you feel better now in your 30s, or 30, than you did in your 20s. And I feel that way too. I mean, I'm 35 and I feel a lot better now than I did at 25. And you don't look it,
for the record, for people who are just
it's
listening.
It's true. I would have never guessed.
Never guessed.
But I felt like, 10 years ago, I felt like total crap. I was working a very, very stressful job. And I think a lot of people do now. So I don't want to just blame it on the job, but working really crazy hours, being in fight or flight. And so I thought I was smart because I didn't have enough time and I didn't listen to my body. So I would be addicted to laxatives. That's what I did because I couldn't go to the bathroom. So I was up to like 20 to 25 laxatives a day. I was like, okay, so like if I time it, if I take 25 laxatives, I'll go to the bathroom probably like at 5 a.m. So it's not going to affect my work. I won't have to do it at work. I also had a really crazy boss too. So if you ever think of the movie The Devil Wears Prada, like that was my life. That was my boss. So she also conditioned me to feel like, you were 5 minutes in the bathroom, and she'd make me feel bad. So I'd be eating at my desk, mindlessly eating the wrong foods, having tons of coffee. So there was tons of trial and error before I became a nutritionist. And I was, after the laxatives didn't work anymore, I just started to do like colon prep that you can buy like over the counter.
Because over time, the laxatives will stop working. Is that how it works?
Right? Yeah. And I mean, I was also eating the wrong foods. So I was eating a lot of carbs and having a lot of coffee. So I am my own like best case study or guinea pig, right? So for me, I had to realize like what are the things to do? How can I take my health into my own hands and be accountable? Because I had tons of colonoscopies. I saw so many doctors. I saw different naturopaths. I saw nutritionists. Some would give me one diet. There's so much conflicting information. And at the end of the day, I was like, I need to figure this out on my own. And one of the biggest things for me was stress and being in fight or flight versus rest and digest. I was like, is this a real thing? I'm
Rest
like, no
and
way.
digest. I like that.
I
That's
love
like a
it.
slogan.
Yeah.
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 I like that. Rest and
Holistic
digest.
nutritionists use that a lot.
Right?
At
Fight
the
or flight,
college,
rest.
like you walk in, like rest,
Rest
and
and
digest.
Yeah.
We love it.
So yeah, for me, I mean, my story was like 10 years of all my 20s of trial and error, where it was like debilitating for me to go out after I'd eat a meal. I'd be like laying on the floor crying. I'd be in so much pain. It's like I had a boulder in my stomach. I couldn't work out, or I was doing the wrong workouts all the time. Everything was like, I'm an A-type personality, so everything was like go hard or go home. And it's like your body doesn't adapt like that. You can't just like push things through and push your body through all these things. And it's also too like the mental talk that you have, right? And what are the things that you're telling yourself, and how do you internalize all this? So all that had affected my digestion, and I had to just, I had a hard stop at 28. My body just broke down. I was like, no, like I couldn't get out of bed. I was like stress ridden. I also to the point where on my lunch breaks, because the laxatives weren't working anymore, I go for colon hydrotherapy. And I do that on my lunch when people are like going out to eat. I'm like, no, I can't poop, so I'm going to go to colon hydrotherapy session. That's my lunch. So I overlooked, and a lot of people overlook the natural bodily processes. Like it's almost like they feel embarrassed to talk about it, but it's like, why? Every natural thing, every human, every animal, any living thing, if you have something in the mouth, you're going to excrete toxins and the food that you're eating, and you're going to take from that hopefully and manufacture vitamins, minerals, and energy. But all of that wasn't happening. So for me, I really had to take a step back and assess, like, how do I want to feel, and how do I want to set the tone for the rest of my life? And that was a very like rude, hard awakening, at 28, when you can't get out of bed and you can't move and you can't go to the bathroom, and you feel like you can figure it out and bypass all these things through over-the-counter, laxatives or medicine. Then your body doesn't work like that. Your body can heal itself, and it doesn't. I know people think that's not true, but it can. But it takes time.
And it takes us paying attention a little bit more. So like Andre's story and your story, one of the common denominators is that you started actually paying attention to your own bodily cues. Like you were going to a naturopath and doctors and specialists and all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, you figured things out for yourself.
You have to.
Yeah.
I think you have to. I think there has to be onus on yourself and accountability, whether it's a fitness program, nutrition program, and they go hand in hand. I think a lot of people, you probably see a lot of people in your practice too, where I talk to people, they try to fix their nutrition for vanity reasons, not because they actually need to be healthy. It's like, well, I want to go to the gym and I want to do a fitness competition. Those are great goals, but you always need to start somewhere, right? And like tracking and holding yourself accountable. I think that's where we need to look at. And I always talk to people like, do you actually assess like what's on your plate every day? Do you look at like, are these carbs, fats, proteins? Like, what is this doing for my body? Is this making me feel good? That connection, that brain gut, that connection between our food, all of that, I didn't even think that was a thing in my 20s.
Yeah.
I hate to cut you off. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that very, very personal experience. And I feel like a lot of people that are listening will be able to connect.
Mm.
And maybe they felt like they were alone in their journey and their personal wellness struggles. And like,
I
thank
think
you so
that
much for
story
sharing
happens
that.
more often than we know.
Yeah.
I actually am like, I was like that, and I'm still partially like that, but not to that full extent because I started listening to myself.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to hear that somebody else shares that same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we conclude our conversation, we have two more questions we want to ask you guys. So we'll get, Marjan, you're going to answer the first question from Melissa, and then Laura, you'll close us out with the last question from me.
Okay.
And then I'll conclude our conversation.
So Marjan, what are your top 3 tips for restoring your gut health?
So
3 bullet points.
number 1 would be the warm water and lemon. Again, because everything kind of works like a domino effect. Another thing that I would look into, and this would be more so along the guidance of a holistic health practitioner, would be I recommend a magnesium supplement. Magnesium isn't something that we get a lot in our diets just because our soil, unfortunately, is super deficient in it. But a magnesium supplement, what magnesium does in the body, it does like 500 different things. But one of the things that it does is that it takes our muscles and it relaxes them. Our digestive system is a muscle as well. So when we incorporate a little bit more magnesium in there, it just helps to relax things, especially for people who are really high stress, anxiety all the time. Helps to kind of get things flowing, as well as just incorporating more fiber in our diets, get things going that way. That analogy was key. It's like still stuck in my brain, the Play-Doh and the you need something. Something has to be helping things to move along. Hydration, fibers, those types of things are really beneficial.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Laura, to conclude our discussion today, and it's been an amazing conversation, for those who are listening and are looking for help in their digestive health, what would be your biggest piece of advice? One piece of rock solid advice.
Just one, Laura. Just
one.
narrow
I
it
know,
down.
I'm like, oh my gosh. That are looking for help?
Yeah, looking for help
Okay.
with that digestive health.
So I would tell them to be your own best nutritionist. I can't stress this enough. Create a food log, 5 to 7 days, a mood and food log, and track your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Track your liquids. Track your activity level, how you felt before, during, and after you're eating, and then your activity level. And in the 5 to 7 days, you may see a pattern. You may see if you're eating the same foods or if you're not eating foods that you think you are, and then you lie to your nutritionist and you say you do.
Every day.
You're not drinking enough water. Maybe you're just drinking, 2 cups of coffee a day. There's so many telltale signs. And look at your poo and your pee.
Pay attention to how often you're actually going to the bathroom. I think that's also a big one.
You should be going at least once a day, at least.
At least. And a lot of times people don't even, when I ask them that question, they're like, not really sure. I don't even know if I went today. I'm like, how do you not know? But that's like number one.
So they're like literally full of crap then, eh? They're just-
literally.
Mel, would you like to say anything before we sign out today?
I just want to say thank you both so much. I've just learned so much, and I'm like, I don't know when the last time I went to the washroom, so I'm like, oh my gosh.
The bathroom's out around the corner. So after this, we'll all go.
And I'm just so
Yeah.
excited to start incorporating some of the tips you guys shared today on the podcast. And I just want to also mention your stage series in Zenbox. There's so many great tips and tricks in there as well. So I definitely recommend everyone who's listening to check out Marjan's series out. And Laura, thank you so much. I really appreciate having you here today.
Yeah, like they're most likely listening to this in the app. So all you got to do is slide out, press the body category, plus holistic nutrition, and then Marjan should pop right up, and you'll be able to learn a lot from her. But that said, where can they find you guys on social media and your websites as well?
I'm Healthy by Marjan across all platforms, Instagram mainly, but my website is healthybymarjan.com.
Laura?
Go with your gut, not to be confused with go with yogurt.
I was just going to say.
Because a lot of people think that. So go with your gut on all platforms, but mostly Instagram as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here this
Thank
morning
you.
and making the time to come have a very important conversation where we're able to share some of our personal experiences, but most importantly, learn more about how to have better digestive health, learn about the importance of digestive health, and how to apply some of the tools that you guys are able to provide for us today. And also for allowing me to challenge some of your thoughts and you guys challenge mine. That's always a great way to have a conversation because we're not always going to agree, but we can definitely have a very civil and, fruitful conversation. And I feel like that's what we accomplished today. We just knocked another one out the park.
Yeah.
This was a great show. I really enjoyed speaking with you guys. And hopefully down the road, we can do this again soon, maybe on a different topic. We'll see, but we'll definitely love to have you guys back on this show very soon. And hopefully Marjan and us at the Zenbox team, we can have some more work, some more
Totally.
information for you guys down the road. So we'll see what the future brings for us. Do you guys have any announcements you'd like to make? There was some big announcements made the last couple of shows. So no pressure. If you guys don't have any big announcements, things that are coming up that people should look out for, events, products, anything like that you guys want to plug?
She mentioned something that you're launching. Right?
So I just launched a prebiotic tea, a prebiotic honey elixir with lemon lily tea. So that's available on well.ca. I also have an organic digestive cleanse tea called Go With Your Gut to help wean people off of laxatives, like similar to my personal story that I shared. And actually, you can find me every Thursday on Global Radio, Global AM 640. So if you have other questions.
I didn't realize it was a weekly thing.
It's a weekly thing. So if you have
That's
any other
exciting.
questions, there's no TMI on that show. So
Right.
feel free to
Perfect.
call in.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, and looking forward to what you guys have coming up next in your personal practices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. This show is being brought to you by ZenBox. Take control. Download ZenBox on the App Store today and begin your journey of discovery and self-elevation. My name is Andre Paulo, my co-host Melissa Spadafora, and we're out.